The West has a long history of misogyny, and this isn't just a strong opinion. It's a reality rooted in their treatment of women. This is a culture that exhibits a profound disdain for women. A reality that stands in stark contrast to its proclaimed values of equality and freedom. Few cultures have so thoroughly belittled and devalued women as Western society has. This objectification is so ingrained that many women in the West end up seeing themselves through that same distorted lens. There was a time when the question of whether women possess souls was a matter of debate. It seems the conclusion has been that they do not. In this society, women are reduced to mere vessels. Their bodies treated as nothing more than decorative elements in a larger narrative. They are seen as props in a theatrical performance, given a less important role, rather than being embraced as integral participants in the human experience, as whole, complex individuals with their own thoughts and feelings. This pervasive culture of objectification reveals a troubling truth. In the eyes of many, women are valued not for their intellect or spirit, but solely for their physical presence. This is why the conversation about what defines a woman has become so ridiculous. If a woman is viewed merely as a collection of physical traits, makeup, curves and hairstyle, then she can be easily mimicked. A man can transform himself to resemble that image using cosmetics and wigs, sometimes even hormone treatments, as if that's all there is to being a woman. This notion reflects a troubling belief that society holds. Women are valued only for their appearances, and they are rewarded for fitting into these narrow expectations. There's a striking report from a few years back indicating that strippers earn as much as lawyers on average. In a culture obsessed with material wealth and superficiality like the West, it's clear what behaviors are celebrated and financially rewarded. Adhering to these societal norms is not only encouraged, but often compensated handsomely. When society tells women and girls that they can achieve financial success quickly by performing in revealing ways, either on stage or in front of a camera, instead of focusing on their intellect, talents, and personal development, the message is unmistakable. You're valued only as sexual objects. If you conform to this expectation, there are generous rewards waiting for you. This attitude suggests a lack of respect for women's dignity and worth. It reduces them to mere instruments of temptation and sin. Reinforcing the belief that they contribute to humanity's downfall.
Silence in the court.
This mindset is deeply ingrained in Western culture.
Order in the court.
Modesty and clothing are reserved for those with honor, which is why stripping someone down during interrogations is a tactic used to break their spirit and assert dominance, creating a profound power imbalance. It's a deliberate act to render individuals vulnerable. This is how women are treated in Western society. It goes beyond just shaming. There's a systematic practice of modesty shaming, virtue shaming, and dignity shaming. Who are you to believe that every man in public shouldn't see your body? What gives you the right to keep your body hidden from his gaze? In this culture, women's bodies are expected to be public displays. There's a clear agenda. They don't want women who carry themselves with dignity. They don't desire virtuous women. Modesty is not welcomed here. France has now prohibited women from wearing abayas in schools, signaling a clear message. Women cannot wear clothing that conceals their bodies from the gaze of male teachers and students. This is a deceptive way to effectively bar Muslim women from education, mirroring the previous ban on the hijab. The underlying intent is to confine Muslim women to their homes, denying them access to schools. While they claim to be champions of women's freedom, they are, in reality, enforcing their own restrictions. France is actively trying to keep Muslim women out of public life, pushing them to abandon their modesty and compromise their beliefs to fit in. This demand for conformity serves to uphold a narrative that objectifies women and perpetuates misogyny. Muslim women challenge this narrative. Their presence and values contradict the narrow view of patriarchy that many hold. Their existence undermines the entire portrayal of Muslim men, and by extension, shatters the negative stereotypes surrounding Islam itself. In Islam, men are entrusted with authority over women. But this doesn't imply superiority or oppression. Rather, it carries a profound responsibility. Men are duty-bound to protect, provide for, support, and uphold the respect and dignity of women, ensuring they are not objectified or degraded by anyone. It's unreasonable to claim that the Muslim world is misogynistic, especially in comparison to the West, particularly concerning the hijab. A powerful counterpoint to the claim that the hijab is a symbol of male domination is clearly visible in the advertising industry. Companies are well aware of how effective women's bodies are in grabbing attention, even when they have no logical connection to the product being advertised. For instance, shaving cream ads, which target men, often feature women caressing a man's freshly shaven face, not because it enhances the product's value, but simply to increase its visual appeal. Similarly, ads for motorcycles, a product traditionally aimed at men, frequently include scantily clad women draped over the bikes. Their presence has nothing to do with the performance or features of the motorcycle, but everything to do with drawing the male gaze. Companies are acutely aware that men are drawn to women's bodies. They often prefer seeing an attractive woman in a bikini advertising a hamburger rather than the burger itself. This illustrates that, in a male-dominated culture, women would typically be less covered, not more. If men truly controlled the norms, they would dictate an environment where women were encouraged to reveal more, not less. The widespread use of women as decorative props in advertisements reflects a societal demand for women to be constantly visible and sexually appealing. The hijab in this context stands in stark opposition to such norms, challenging the idea that a woman's worth is tied to her physical appearance. In a genuinely misogynistic society, men often feel entitled to view women's bodies. When women choose to dress modestly, it challenges this sense of entitlement, leaving men feeling deprived. This entitlement is reflected in arguments against the hijab, where critics claim it makes women invisible, suggesting that a woman isn't truly present unless her legs, hair, and body shape are visible. Such views objectify women even more than using a woman in an advertisement to sell burgers. In this perspective, if a woman isn't showcasing herself for the approval of men, she's seen as irrelevant. Conversely, a man can wear baggy pants and a hoodie, covering most of his body, and still be recognized as a presence in society. This disparity illustrates that while men are not expected to serve a decorative purpose, women are often reduced to that role. This flawed logic is mistakenly viewed as female empowerment in the West. It's perplexing how many fail to see the connection between conforming to what pleases men and ultimately being dominated by them. Consider who garners more attention, Kim Kardashian or a woman in a burqa. The answer is clear. The West's disdain for Muslim women stems from their challenge to the toxic narrative about femininity that has long persisted. There's a fear that women will begin to realize they don't have to be objectified in public or endure the societal pressures of body image, leading to issues like eating disorders and anxiety over meeting unrealistic standards. The concern is that Muslim women will inspire others to question their self-objectification, and that's what truly unsettles them. And honestly, their fears are justified. Women are converting to Islam at double the rate of men, signaling a shift toward dignity and away from being mere objects for visual consumption. This trend highlights the growing number of women who refuse to be treated as mere decorations. For years, the West has waged a relentless battle against women's self-worth and respect, diminishing their status as valuable human beings. As society claims to become more liberal, this conflict only escalates. With the rise of so-called feminism, women are increasingly exploited and made vulnerable, to the point where we now hear arguments that women on platforms like OnlyFans are empowered and should be viewed as feminist role models. This narrative celebrates sexual objectification as a means to succeed, which is profoundly disturbing. It's a clear indication of how far we've strayed from genuine empowerment, twisting the concept into something unrecognizable. The visibility of Muslim women in the West challenges the established order and introduces a remedy for a problem that many are unwilling to address. France stands out as one of the most affected nations, known for its misogyny and lack of civility, reflecting a deeper insecurity. In their frustration, Western nations, particularly France, often respond to their insecurities by oppressing women, mistakenly believing this displays strength. However, what it really reveals is a profound weakness and a diminishing hold on their imperial power. The true narrative is one of decline rather than dominance. Consider this. Education often serves as a means of indoctrination. Yet French schools seem to have struggled to persuade Muslim women to abandon their modesty by removing the abaya. In response, the government has decided to outright ban it. This inability to convince these women through years of state-supported education signals a weakening of their ideological grip within their own borders. When a society resorts to force instead of dialogue, it reveals a looming defeat. If the French authorities feel threatened by something as simple as a piece of fabric, it's clear that their strength is fading. Today, Muslim women in France find themselves facing challenges similar to those of their counterparts in Afghanistan. What a twist of fate! Emmanuel Macron has essentially taken on the role of a mullah, though he lacks the courage to admit it openly. Like many leaders, he prefers to act indirectly rather than confront the issue head-on. The bottom line is clear. They don't want Muslim girls in schools or Muslim women pursuing education. They don't want them visible in public spaces. At least the Taliban can claim their actions are driven by the need to stabilize a country torn apart by decades of war, using that as justification for their approach to education and governance. France's actions stem not from the chaos of war, but from an internal unraveling. Their civilization and culture are crumbling under the weight of their own inadequacies. Lacking a strong ideological foundation, they find themselves making one misstep after another, each decision only deepening their vulnerabilities. We Muslims feel for the Muslim women in France navigating this difficult landscape, and we encourage you to stand firm in your beliefs. The knowledge sought in schools can just as easily be gained at home. In fact, many may be even better educators than those in the classrooms. The dignity and modesty upheld in the practice of Islam impart invaluable lessons to French society, lessons that far outweigh anything that may be attempted to be taught. In conclusion, the treatment of women in Western societies, particularly in France, reveals a disturbing contradiction between professed values of freedom and the reality of deep-rooted misogyny.
Silence in the court.
The struggles faced by Muslim women serve as a stark reminder of this reality, highlighting a societal fear that challenges the status quo. The effort to marginalize these women and their values only underscores a deeper insecurity within a civilization grappling with its own decline. By imposing restrictions rather than engaging in genuine dialogue, France not only alienates Muslim women, but also exposes its fragility. The presence of these women is a powerful counter-narrative, challenging the objectification and superficial standards that dominate Western culture. As more women choose the path of dignity, rejecting the confines of objectification, the possibility for true empowerment emerges, encouraging all women to embrace their worth beyond mere appearances. This transformation is not just beneficial for Muslim women, but for society as a whole, fostering an environment where individuals are valued for their intellect and character rather than their physical form. Ultimately, the resistance of Muslim women against oppressive narratives offers hope for a future where respect and dignity are paramount, paving the way for a more equitable world.